Hi fellow traders, I hope everybody's weekend is off to a great start. Mine didn't start the way I wanted it to. I wanted to get out and get some yard work done, but the rain and the storms came a little too early, so I didn't get to do that. But it gave me some time to sit down and do this presentation. Now I've been wanting to do this for a minute, but not having enough time, and I didn't want to do this as a part of a normal trade recap because you may not have enough time to go through it in the middle of the week. So I needed a weekend like this where I could get it out there and give you enough time to go through it, because the information that I want to share with you is something that I feel is very, very important. And I have to make sure that I deliver it in the right way. So hopefully you guys got to see or paid attention to that quote. There's a quote by this guy named Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. He's a German guy, author, poet, scientist, artist. He's one of those guys back then. All of those guys were a jack of all trades. So he was one of those. But that quote's very profound. And I know I say that about a lot of quotes, but I feel all of them are, and they connect well with what we do every day in the trading world. So, knowing is not enough. You must apply. And willing is not enough. You must do. And as a teacher and a mentor, I firmly believe that not just knowing or learning what I'm teaching, the skills and the knowledge is important. The most important thing is, can you apply it? So it doesn't matter what you learn if you can't use it. And because I had that thought throughout all my teaching career, I was a big advocate for project-based learning, because what it would do is it would take the student and the skills and the fundamentals that I taught them and allow them to attempt to apply it in a real world scenario. And that causes them to learn by doing. And I think that's the most effective way to learn, especially in trading, is learning by doing. Sitting here watching videos over and over and over again isn't going to help you become a professional trader or a successful trader. You're going to have to be able to apply the things that you're learning. And that's why it's really important to me. And then I know that willing yourself to succeed is going to take some work. And you're going to have to be able to put in the work to go with that will. If you're not able to do that, it's not going to end well. We're not going to be able to achieve our goals. So it's very, very critical that we're able to apply what we learn, and that we're able to actually go out and do it on a consistent basis. Now, when I was teaching, I had students that came from different backgrounds, different demographics. So I could always group them, and a lot of times I would group them based on learning styles, so that I knew how to teach each group, what I needed to focus on. And what I realized in trading, this is a broader base. I'm international now, so I've got students all over the world that I'm teaching. But the way I group them, and now I'm not saying any one group is better than the other. It's just the way I group them so that I can approach each group in a different way. So I could design the way I teach and how I approach and how I mentor to meet their specific needs. So the first group that I have is these guys that, they join without a second thought. They join, pay their money, and they don't do the work. They just come in, watch the videos, and then they realize, well, hey, maybe this is a little bit more work. If I just watch the videos a little more, maybe I don't have to go through all of these steps, and the money is just going to miracle its way into my account. And that's the way these guys think. And I'm not saying that you're bad. That's just the way that you see things. And the way I teach, I'm going to have to teach a different way so that you can apply these skills and you can achieve the results that I need you to achieve. Now, the second group is that group where, these traders have been trading for a while. They've made successful trades, and they're just looking for that one little thing. They think that they're one trade away from being a successful trader. That all they need is just one little thing, one little piece of missing information, and it's so simple that as soon as they get it, they're gonna take off. So they're gonna do what they want to do, believe what they want to believe, learn what they want to learn, and they're gonna march to the beat of their own drum regardless of what I say. And so it's hard. I have a harder time reaching these guys and getting them to understand that, hey, what you forgot is not anything you forgot or that you missed. It's just that you were never taught it. And going back and get the foundation, that missing link, means going back to the basics. And honestly, if you spent that much time and money in something, you don't want somebody coming along saying, hey, that's worthless, you need to start here. When actually it's not worthless. It's just that you can't redeem the value in the education that you received until you go back and figure out how to unlock the keys to those, those concepts. So I've got that group. And then the third group is the one that's closest to my heart. I'm not saying it's my favorite group. I'm saying it's the one closest to my heart because that is where I came from. That was me. And, I had to, fight through that. And in this group, these are the guys that do the work. Or they seem to do the work. They seem to put in the time. But they just can't get to consistency. They can't cross over into being a consistent trader. And, a lot of times, it's challenging because you lose faith a lot. And it's easy to want to, just say that this just isn't for me and all of that. When in reality, we just need a little bit more push in this direction or that direction. It's just a matter of figuring out, where the disconnect is and connecting the dots, because you've already put in the work, you have done the things that you're supposed to do, and you just can't seem to connect the dots. And then the last group, and this is actually the smallest group, these are the guys that bought in from day one, that it didn't take a whole lot for them to trust the process, and they immersed themselves in the process, and they've come through on the other side. And these are the guys that can help others. They could be in the community and help others and do the things that supplement a lot of the things that I do. But they've completely trusted me and accepted me as their teacher, as their mentor, without much reservation. And, so like I said, obviously that is the smaller group. But all four groups are very good. There's nothing bad about either one. They all have their challenges. They all have their good points. But the reason why I went through all these groups is that there's one common problem that's prevalent among all of these groups. And it's the fact that they cannot stand to have multiple losses in a row or more losers versus winners over a short period of time. You know, it's very challenging through all groups. Now, once you are a professional trader and you're out on your own and you're doing your thing, you know how to accept those. I know how to accept it, and I know how to work through it. But in the learning part, it's very difficult for you to get through, that part. So you need a mentor, you need a model. And that's where the chat room comes in. That's why I call my chat room the education community, because that's where the rubber meets the road. And you're able to see me go through everything, because life happens to me every day. And you get to see me in my highs and my lows, and you get to see how I deal with losses, how I deal with consecutive losses. Sometimes I may be immature, but you see me bring it right back around. So, we're going to get into that today a little bit. I'm going to use this past month and recap my last week. And we're going to use some of the things as, a learning tool. These are great learning tools and learning opportunities. So I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm going to use those to help benefit us in the chat room, or in the community. So today, go grab a drink or whatever, come back and sit down and enjoy the presentation. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at what happened Wednesday. And as I said, I'm going to use this past week and kind of things that I've been going through this past month as a teachable moment, because everything is directly related to what I've done, the things that have been presented in my life, and some things I didn't handle well, some things I did. But first, we're going to take a look at Wednesday here. And you could see Wednesday, the SPY ran up all morning, all pre-market. Then the market opened, the bottom fell out. All right, so I'm looking at this as a short opportunity, and I'm going to feel more confident in my shorts actually following through with the market selling off and showing this weakness. So needless to say, I was, feeling pretty good. So here's an example of what happens or what can happen in the market. Because here, I'm taking my first trade here, INTC, and we put in a 5-minute open range low. Now I know it gapped up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it gaps up or gap down. What we're trading is what the market is telling us it's going to do at the open. And, I saw this put in a high here. We pulled back. We put in a lower high. We pulled back. We could not get back up here. So any reasonable person that's trading this strategy is going to see that we have lost all of this resistance, or this early support is now resistance. Everything's trending down. We're showing some solid selling pressure. And as soon as we break the opening range low, and I had to wait a tick because I wanted it to get below the 100. I didn't want to short into that support. And I got in. It dipped down a little bit. And then this next candle opens and rips up. It rips up and the market is selling. Now go figure. But, so I ended up having to stop out. But I go back and look at this and I grade myself and I got an A because I executed my plan perfectly. Everything that I had planned And the way I planned it, I executed it. The only thing is, this turned around and hit my stop versus my profit target. And so I'm out. It wasn't a mistake entering because based on the market, I felt we had this big volatility, all this momentum, that there shouldn't be any issue with taking an aggressive approach. And you know, the opening range trades, you got an aggressive and then you've got a little more conservative entry. So I took the aggressive. It kind of turned on me. So, okay, that's fine. This happens sometimes. But what blew my mind was the market was selling so hard and this thing was showing all kind of weakness, and then all of a sudden it got blown up. You know, that kind of blew my mind there. So we walked away from that. And IBM was another one on our watch. So this time I waited for it to close. I waited for the candle to close, the next candle to open and make a new low relative to this candle. That's the conservative approach, right? So I did that. This candle was solid red for about a minute. And as soon as I got in, just like the other trade, the damn thing ripped up and stopped me out. And so at this point, I'm about to lose it because the market is selling. Look at the market, it's selling. And every stock I get in is ripping. It sells and then it turns around and starts to rip. And I'm like, you know, so some of the thoughts that can creep into your mind is that somebody is watching your orders and just blowing you up every time you jump in, which I know is not true. That couldn't be farther from the truth. But when you start to take multiple losses and you get in and all of a sudden the trade blows up the other way, it's like everything's set up perfect. This couldn't be a more perfect setup. And worst case scenario, we should have made it down to this 136, should be 25 level. Should have made it down there without any problems whatsoever. And then in the middle of nowhere, this thing holds the whole dollar mark and just flat runs away from you. And not just a weak pop, this thing is strong. Both of these stocks turned around and completely went the other way. So this can actually happen in the market. You don't know who's on the other side of these trades. You don't know who decided, 137 is my buy spot. And we're going to rip this thing back up. Maybe this is where they wanted to buy. And that was that. You just don't know. We can speculate till we're blue in the face. But if we're not there with the people who are doing this and listening to their rationale, we'll never know. But, this, after the week that I've had, after the month that I've had, really, turned me frustrated. Turned into frustration. To where I had to take a step back and, try to figure out, what the hell's going on. This makes absolutely no sense. But then I had to retell myself, look, the market is going to be the market. You can't worry about this. You just focus on your execution, focus on your trades. So I broke my rule, of course. But here's another example of, here's Pepsi. This was on my watch as well. But we didn't get a whole lot of volume to come in this. So I kind of took my eyes off of it. But here's the 5-minute opening range high. The market is selling off hard and this is going up. Go figure. Go figure. This thing kind of starts in to the short side, and then we rip up, it turns into a long with the market going down. They're just the opposite of the other stocks that I traded. So when I say it was a weird morning, Wednesday was just a weird morning. And if you didn't get lucky and catch that initial 5 minute in the first 5 minutes, then you kind of got blown up a little bit. So I broke my rule. I reached, my max loss is $300. So I just couldn't go out like that. I decided to take another trade. And I'm like, this is a nice, safe trade. We were rejecting here. We should come down to the 100 and then get a bounce here. And we did pull down. Kind of hit my first target. And then it bounced back and took me out. I had to get out of it. So it was a small win. I guess it was more a good thing on my mental side versus financial side. But I felt a little bit better. Even though this was really choppy, I know how things trade after 10 o'clock. And I was expecting it not to make a huge move. I just wanted a winning trade. For my mindset, I just needed a strategy to work out. And, so I can go to lunch feeling a little bit better. But never really found another trade. And then even the one stock that I looked at for earnings, AA, look at this craziness. And, it did sell off like I wanted it to. But just Wednesday was just one of those crazy days. And this, I wish I could have looked at Team and a couple of others that actually gave really good moves. I didn't have enough time. But AA is one that I've traded in the past. And it just didn't give me anything. So I was depending on getting a big earnings trade to turn me back green, kind of eat up the losses from Monday and Tuesday. Just didn't happen. It was just a weird day. So what do we do when we end up with a month like this? What do we do? And like I said earlier, most all the traders in all four groups, whenever they see a series of consecutive losses or more losses than winners over a period of time, and they look at this, then they're going to say, oh, okay, this strategy is not working. I need to do something else. And what happens when you may see somebody in whatever chat room you're in, or if you're in another chat room or whatever, and somebody's posting constant winners. And you're like, I need to learn that strategy because this one isn't working. And then you go learn that one, and then in another month, you end up with another chart calendar looking like this. And then you move on. So there is a way that you approach this. And it's not making wholesale changes, after taking a handful of red days in a row, handful of red trades in a row. You don't overreact. There is a process that you have to follow. And this is actually, coming up next in the roadmap to success. And I've taught this before. A lot of it had to do with reflection and all of this. But, and journaling and reflection are the only way to defeat this. The only way to get through times like this is journaling and reflection. Because your journal is going to have, it's usually going to have two components to it. It's going to have just the psychological component, which is the questionnaire that I gave you for your reflection. If you answer all those questions, that's going to be the psychological component to your journal, and you're going to be able to go back through each day. Let's say for 2 weeks, you're going to go back and you're going to be able to find or figure out what was the issue. Why have you gotten the way that you've gotten? Is there something changing in the market? You'll be able to tell based on your journal entries over the course of a couple of weeks. And that's the only way to get out of it. But the problem is not enough of you guys that I work with are actually doing a journal, that you're actually putting in the work for a journal. You're studying, you're putting in practice time, but for some reason, you're not journaling your trades. And there's no way you will ever get to the next level unless you start journaling your trades. And when you do that, it's going to stop you from over trading. It's going to help you to focus on just taking the trades that are setting up and not speculating, not chasing and all of that stuff. It will 100% clear up this issue that you have. And what it'll do is it'll show you that, hey, if there's something changing in the strategy, then we can make a quick tweak on that. So for instance, the opening range strategy. When I was doing the 15 minutes, it came a time where 15 minutes just didn't work. With this strategy, you have to change time frames. And so that's how I ended up with the 5 minute. And I did some testing, live testing really, with the 3 minute, with the 3 minute opening range and the 2 minute, because when you get into a period in the market where there's very little follow through, going to a shorter time frame is the only way to go, because it's going to get you in the trade sooner. You're going to be able to get to a profit target and at least make money on the first profit target if there's no follow through on the trade. So there's still a little bit more testing. I like to do multiple months, not just go 1 month. But I know it works because I've kind of done it in the past. But I've never gone and actually said I'm going to trade specifically a 2 or 3 minute opening range breakout. I've always felt more comfortable letting the first 5 minutes work itself out. And it even may be better to go to a 15 minute, which would keep you out of a lot of trades, but you would only be in the ones that actually work. So, that's my spill on this. So you see, this month is crazy. It is just crazy. There's still a week and a half. Really can turn this month around in the next week and a half without any issues. The main thing is I can't go in thinking about this. When I go in, I can't think about where I am for the week, the month. I just have to focus on each day. Coming in with each day with the right mindset, building a watch list, and building the best trade plans I can build, and then execute. That's all you can do. So here is the equity curve, or what is this? The weekly one. You can see we're heading down. We are 337.90. This is the biggest red week that I've had. Well, the second red week, I kind of beat this by almost $100. But it's just been slow. This whole month has really, really been slow for me, which I anticipated. But going back through my journal, I realized that I had too many things going on, too many distractions that was taking me away from focusing on trading. And I can't blame it on anybody but me, because I made a decision to focus on these things and to handle some of these things during the course of a trading week. You know, the week before we went to New York, you know, I had a lot that I had to do. I had a lot going on, and to try to help us get my son everything he needed, making sure he had his ID, and you know, his card was good and everything was straight. And all of this stuff I was doing, and I was, you know, I had to get us ready, make sure we had everything we needed. So that took care of this week. And this was the week that we came back. You know, I missed Monday, came back Tuesday, and just wasn't in Tuesday. I was really out of it because, you know, their plane didn't land on time. They got delayed, and it was like 2 o'clock before I got to bed at 2:30. So that threw everything off. So Tuesday was terrible, and you know, a couple of days didn't take trades. It was just a mess. But life happens, and instead of me going in saying or blaming things on the strategy or whatever, you know, it was me. It was life that was happening. So making a journal and being able to go through and read it and check it, you know, after a couple of weeks of, you know, some down days or some down weeks, and see, is there a change that I need to make in the strategy, or, you know, with the time frame, or is it just me? Is it just things that I had to deal with through that period of time? So, you know, those are things that we have to think about. So let's look at the equity curve here. And you can see we're starting to roll a little bit. This is not something to be concerned about. Not something that I would be concerned about. Now, if I started getting it and we have consistent weeks going the wrong way, yeah, I'm going to have to jump in and, you know, make some changes. But right now, I'm not worried about it. I'm just upset that I lost that 15,000 mark. Worked so hard. It took me like 2 weeks to get there, and now I'm gone. You know, so it's a little bit crazy. But I'm not worried about it. I'm still trending up. You know, I'm still in that uptrend. I'm still in my bull market. You know, so, you know, I just want you guys to know life is going to happen. And the only thing that keeps me focused and keeps me going is being able to go back and look at what's happened over the period of those days. Trying to remember it and trying to memorize it from day to day to day is not going to cut it. It's actually journaling, where you're doing the trade. You have your trade laid out, but having that psychological component to go along with it. You know, going through that reflection sheet and making that as a part of your process. All right, so now we're going to look at a couple of students, and all three of these students are a little bit different. You know, so I pulled out these examples. These are guys that I'm mentoring, and the ones that are actually, you know, doing the journaling. You know, I just showed them how to do the simple curve that, you know, with the like I said, I'm no expert. I'm not even a novice when it comes to Excel. So I just showed them how to do this and how I make my chart. So they just do it. Some of them actually pay for TraderView and send me their stuff through that. It just depends on what you want to do. But these three guys, they're a little bit different in their journeys. So I wanted to share it with you so you can have a good, kind of a good idea of, their journey. Now, this guy here, he had been with me for a while, had the strategies down, but just wasn't consistent. He wasn't able to apply what he was doing consistently. And so he was willing to take a step back and go through the roadmap series. Okay. And once he did his business plan, trading business plan, everything changed for him. Now, he didn't do it until like the third week. I guess, I don't know what he's waiting on, but once he did it, it completely changed his mindset, changed his focus, and look at his trades. He had the first green month ever trading. Now, he'd had green weeks before, but he had never had a green month. So this was the first green month, and he hasn't looked back since. Now, we've had, a couple of hiccup weeks, and typically you're going to have a bad week after your best week. So this was his best week to date. He had his worst week. Well, not really his worst week, but he had a bad week after his best week ever. And typically you see that. And actually, most of the losses came from the very first day he started trading when he came back after the big week. But then bounced back really good because, he sent me an email and I was able to tell him, look, go back to the basics. What happened is you thought you were the man. And you came in doing things that you don't normally do. Go back to what got you where you are. And that's what he did. And then the wheels came off again here. And we actually had a mentor session through here. And there were some, personal problems. I'm not going into details on them. But what caused him, like I said, life, happens. And things are going to happen, and you have to be aware of it and know how to deal with it so that it doesn't affect you and you can move on. So you either learn how to deal with it or you just don't trade through that period. And you can see, picked it back up. And he had a red week last week, right along with me. But this is the equity curve. This is what we're looking for. He's still trending up. He's trending up. Even though he's got some strong pullbacks, he's trending up. And that's what we want to see. This doesn't really mean much unless you spend too much time in the red. If you keep going up and then dipping back into the red and going up and dipping back into the red, then we need to address some things. Okay, and that's what you look at on that. Here, you just want to see this thing. If you break your uptrend, then we need to sit down and talk. But I do like, he named this his earnings curve. I think I've always struggled trying to figure out how to name this. So I think I'm going to steal his name for mine. Here, my computer's acting up, man. All right. So here we've got the weekly curve. I just blocked out his name because if you're in chat, you'll probably know who it is. And I don't want any unsolicited attention going his way. So if he wants to discuss it, he can and answer questions, but I'm not going to put you out there like that. So here we've got three days of big losses. Bam, bam, bam. And then 2 days of just taking it off. Now, here was a guy, he'd been with me for a while, and, had that problem of not wanting to listen. I know what I'm doing. I made big trades in the past. I just need that little something to try to get me over the hump. That's where this guy came in. And you could tell he was trading. But you know what? He started January 1st with $2,500. And he lost $1,500 of it really quick. And which caused him to stop trading for a couple days. And we met. I told him to stop. I was like, and decide right now, you're going to listen to me, or are you just going to do your thing? If you're just going to do your thing, then don't cry to me about having all these losses in a row, because you're going to keep seeing them. So he took a couple weeks off, I don't know if he made some money or whatever, put some more money back in his account. And, in these 2 weeks, we did a business plan. Practice, did the exercise a little bit, for probably a week and a half. Just making sure that he understood. He knew the strategies, but he was one of those guys that just didn't want to listen, because he had seen a little bit of success. But that's, anybody can be lucky. You got to know, anybody can make a winning trade. It doesn't take much. So, you can see he turned it around, got 3 red weeks here, had a little hiccup. So, I keep messing this up. So, he did pretty good. So he has turned himself. He's come out of the red, and he's up $800 on the month from being down 15. So not bad. So it was just a matter of getting your head screwed on straight. Now, can these guys keep these gains? It's going to be up to them. It's going to be up to them if they can keep these games or not, because it's so easy to go back and start doing bad things again. It's easy to make money on a bad trade and that really take you in the opposite direction. But these 2 guys listened. They started putting in the work, and it's paying off. All right, so the last one I have for you, and this guy is just a hardhead. A hardhead. He started in January but didn't have any money to trade. He funded his account, eventually funded his account. But through all of this time, he didn't do his trade plan. He didn't do the exercise. Didn't do anything. He was a guy that he paid his money. He listened to the videos, or sat through the classes and just didn't do anything. This is that example. Just did not do anything. And it shows. Because, he had only gotten down $1,400, but he didn't really have a lot of money to start with anyway. No, 15. Okay, here we go. 15 was the most he got down. and now he's brought it back to 1,000. But this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay, he had 3 good weeks in here, and this was, see, I told you so. I don't need to do all of this. And then bam, he took this 390 and he was down in the hole more than he'd ever been. And just last week, we had a meeting, a session, and he started doing what he needed to do. So it's just a matter, some people it's going to take longer to get. There's some people that's been here all year, and they still haven't done it. They haven't had a green week, much less a green month. They picked and choose what they wanted to do. And you know me, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. If you're not doing what you need to be successful, then it's not going to happen for you. I'm sorry. You're going to have to put the work in. If you don't listen to me, you're going to have to listen to whoever you move to. I may not be the one to connect with you or to reach you, but somebody will. And when they do, you're going to realize that, hey, this is what I needed to get done. So, journaling. Guys, journaling is what's keeping these guys consistent. Getting their mindset right, doing a business trading plan, having the right focus, got them started. Once we start journaling, and he just started, he had to go back in and put all of this in. He didn't even do this. This is something that he did. I had him do last week. He didn't even do this. So he had to go back through and do this. And, he started journaling. So that should help him be consistent if he continues to follow and stick to the rules. Alright, so hopefully you guys got something out of this. Like I said, if you have any questions, please email me. Send them to me. I'll be more than happy to email you. But one of the questions, let me answer this question real quick before we go, about the roadmap to success. Yeah, now you members, you're getting access to the classes for free. You don't have to pay any more to get that. But if you guys want to take advantage of the special, if you want mentoring time, that's the best deal. Because if you just get mentoring time, you're going to pay $300 for 3 hours. Here, you pay less money, get 6 hours, but on top of that, you get 6 months added to your subscription. So you don't lose any time. It just gets added to the back end. That's why I'm going away from that. I'm going away from the recurring thing. That's only going to be on monthly subscriptions. Everything else is going to be, a one-time thing, so that whenever you get something new or you add or you take advantage of a special, it'll just get added on. So there won't be the chance of it charging you when it doesn't need to charge you, or you forget to cancel it, and then we have to go through all of this mess. It's a lot easier for me just doing it that way. And so, you guys are getting the benefit of, me taking it easy, trying to make things easier for me. Because I'm not a businessman. I'm not in this to try to grow this into $1 million business. Obviously. I'm just trying to make things easier for me so that I don't kill myself, or hurt my trading along the way. But just wanted to answer that. But you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Take some time to smell the roses. And let's come back Monday morning ready to attack this market.